The laughter wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It had that brittle, crystalline quality, like a champagne flute splitting at the stem while everyone insists it's fine. The Stratos Tech Christmas party was built for people who feared quiet. Chandeliers spilled light like a waterfall. Ice sculptures wept expensive puddles onto linen. A string quartet performed something cheerful enough to sell the illusion that power could be festive. I stood at the edge of it all, holding a glass of whiskey I didn't even want, watching my wife do what she did best. Sienna didn't just enter a room. She calibrated it. She laughed at the right moments, tilted her head when people spoke like their words deserved weight, touched elbows, shoulders, wrists, small, practiced contacts that said, "I'm here, I see you, remember me." Her dress was black and sharp, cut with the kind of precision that made other women glance twice and other men forget their own names for a second. She looked like she belonged to the evening, and I looked like the accessory she'd forgotten to return. That's what they always assumed about me. The unemployed husband, the quiet one, the soft one, the one who drifted through events like a shadow with a wedding ring. They never asked the right questions. They asked what I did all day, if I was finding my next thing, if I was supporting Sienna's climb. They asked like they were being kind, as if pity was a charitable donation they could deduct. I let them. Invisibility is a kind of armor, if you know how to wear it without suffocating. Across the room, a small current shifted the crowd. People straightened, smiles sharpened. Glasses rose half an inch as if pulled by magnets. Carson Vance arrived the way storms do, with confidence and pressure. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, a tuxedo that looked tailored by a man who hated wrinkles and mercy. He moved through the ballroom like it was his personal property, which in a way it was. Stratos Tech didn't just pay for this room, it paid for the assumptions inside it. Carson wasn't merely a CEO, he was a costume everyone else wore. He spotted Sienna, and the space around her tightened, like the room itself leaned in. He slipped an arm around her waist. Not politely, not like a colleague, like a man claiming a prize. Sienna's smile held. Her shoulders did not. I saw the fraction, the smallest pause in her body where something in her wanted to recoil, but didn't, because recoiling would be a choice. And choices have consequences. Carson said something into her ear. She laughed. Not the laugh she gave me in the kitchen when it was just us. Not the laugh she used to give me before she started measuring her life in titles and LinkedIn endorsements. This laugh was clean, public, useful. Carson's gaze swept the room and landed on me. It didn't land gently. It pinned. His grin widened, as if he'd found the evening's entertainment. "Ah," he said, loud enough for the nearest circle of donors and executives to hear. Loud enough for the laughter to prepare itself. "There he is." People turned. Heads pivoted. Eyes assessed. It always amazed me how quickly adults became children when someone powerful decided to point. "Ladies and gentlemen," Carson continued, his voice rich with mock warmth, "may I present Julian Cross, Sienna's husband, the man who's mastered the art of being professionally unemployed." A ripple of laughter. Quick, safe, not too cruel, just cruel enough to be fun. Sienna looked at me. Her eyes flashed with something that might have been apology. Then Carson tightened his grip on her waist and pulled her closer, and Sienna's apology disappeared behind her survival instinct. Carson kept going because men like Carson mistake silence for permission. "You know what Julian is?" he said, turning slightly, letting the insult bloom. "He's her little basement trophy. Broke, clingy, and forgettable." The room erupted. It wasn't just laughter. It was relief. The house was dark when I got home. Not asleep, just waiting. That's the difference you learn when you've spent years pretending. Darkness can be passive, or it can be alert. Tonight, it felt like the latter. Like the walls themselves knew something had shifted and were holding their breath. I didn't turn on the lights upstairs. I loosened my tie, slipped off my shoes, and walked past the kitchen Sienna had redesigned twice in 3 years. Marble countertops, smart appliances, a space meant to be seen, not used. Everything about it screamed success, hers. I headed for the basement. The steps creaked in the same places they always had. Sienna hated that sound. She said it made the house feel old, unfinished. She'd suggested replacing the staircase more than once. I'd always said no. Basements are supposed to remember things. At the bottom, I flipped on the single overhead light. It hummed to life, casting a dull glow over what everyone assumed was my hiding place. The man cave, the embarrassment, the proof that Carson Vance had been right. A beat-up desk, a gaming chair with a torn armrest, two monitors that looked like they belonged to a teenager killing time online, shelves packed with technical books, databases, security protocols, finance guides. Boring, forgettable, harmless. I closed the door behind me. The lock clicked. Then I moved. 3 books came off the shelf in a precise order: Advanced Database Management, Network Security Protocols, Corporate Finance for Dummies. The last one always amused me. If anyone had ever bothered to look closely, they might have wondered why an unemployed husband needed it. No one ever did. The shelf shifted with a low mechanical whisper. Hinges released. The wall swung inward, revealing the safe hidden behind it. Industrial steel, biometric scanner, keypad. Overkill, according to the contractor. Not for what I kept inside. Thumb to the scanner. Code entered at a pause, then the deep, satisfying sound of bolts disengaging. The door opened. Inside were folders, thick, methodical, labeled in my handwriting. Not dramatic names. No flair. Just truth organized for when truth became necessary. That I pulled out the last one. The weight of it was comforting. 3 years of patience. 3 years of buying silence, percentages, complacency. Shares acquired through entities no one at Stratos had bothered to trace. Funds routed through vehicles Carson's legal team waved through because the numbers looked good and the names didn't matter. People like Carson never imagine the threat comes from someone who doesn't need recognition. I spread the documents across the desk like a battlefield map. Stock transfer agreements, voting trusts, board contingency clauses. Page 47 caught the light. Conduct detrimental to company interests. Standard language. Boilerplate. The kind executives never read because they assume it applies to other people. Public humiliation of a shareholder's family member qualified nicely. I sat back in the chair and exhaled slowly. Upstairs, a door opened. Sienna was home. I didn't move. Her footsteps crossed the living room, slowed near the basement door, then stopped. I could picture her there, hand on the knob, debating whether to descend into the place she'd always treated like a joke. She never came down. Instead, her phone buzzed on the desk beside me. A message lit the screen. Sienna, Julian, please. We need to talk. What you said tonight. People are asking questions. I didn't reply. Another message followed. Carson is furious. You embarrassed him. I smiled at that. I closed the folder, returned it to the safe, but left the door open. Tomorrow, I wouldn't need to hide the evidence anymore. As I shut off the basement light, my reflection flickered across the dark monitor screens. Steady, unfamiliar, almost sharp. Carson thought the basement was where men went to disappear. He'd never learned the truth. Basements aren't for hiding. They're for foundations. And tomorrow morning didn't arrive. It advanced. The sky outside was still bruised blue when I finished dressing. Dark suit, red tie, shoes polished to a mirror edge. The kind of outfit people wore when they wanted to look powerful. I wore it because it made people uncomfortable. Sienna was already awake. She stood in the kitchen holding her phone like it was an anchor, scrolling through messages she couldn't answer. Her hair was perfect. Her face wasn't. You're really going through with this, she said without looking up. I poured coffee. Black. No suga. Going through with what? She laughed once. Sharp. Brittle. Don't do that. Not now. Carson barely slept. The board is in panic mode. People are saying things, Julian. People always say things, I replied. That's their only real job. She finally looked at me. There was fear there now, thinly veiled beneath irritation. You humiliated my boss. You made me look stupid. No, I said calmly. You did that all by yourself. Her jaw tightened. You think this ends well? You think powerful men forgive being embarrassed? I met her gaze. Held it. Powerful men don't need forgiveness. They need leverage. She didn't understand that yet. I grabbed my coat and keys. She stepped in my path. You don't get to blow up my career because you felt insecure for 5 minutes, she snapped. I leaned in close enough that she went still. It wasn't 5 minutes, I said quietly. It It was 5 years. I walked past her. Morning didn't arrive. It advanced. The sky outside was still bruised blue when I finished dressing. Dark suit, red tie, shoes polished to a mirror edge. The kind of outfit people wore when they wanted to look powerful. I wore it because it made people uncomfortable. Sienna was already awake. She stood in the kitchen holding her phone like it was an anchor, scrolling through messages she couldn't answer. Her hair was perfect. Her face wasn't. "You're really going through with this," she said without looking up. I poured coffee. Black. No suga. "Going through with what?" She laughed once. Sharp. Brittle. "Don't do that. Not now." Carson barely slept. "The board is in panic mode. People are saying things, Julian." "People always say things," I replied. "That's their only real job." She finally looked at me. There was fear there now, thinly veiled beneath irritation. "You humiliated my boss. You made me look stupid." "No," I said calmly. "You did that all by yourself." Her jaw tightened. "You think this ends well? You think powerful men forgive being embarrassed?" I met her gaze. Held it. Powerful men don't need forgiveness. They need leverage. She didn't understand that yet. I grabbed my coat and keys. She stepped in my path. "You don't get to blow up my career because you felt insecure for 5 minutes," she snapped. I leaned in close enough that she went still. "It wasn't 5 minutes," I said quietly. "It was 5 years." I walked past her.